2025 was an exceptional year for anime. A great year. Let's talk about the returning shows first, shall we? All the returning shows like Don Da Don. We got season 2 of Don Da Don. It was freaking fantastic. As always, of course. No surprise there. Uh, Season 1 may have had an abrupt ending, but it did not disappoint. Season 2 did not disappoint at all. We got a much better cliffhanger by the end of this season, and now I am more hyped than ever for season 3. Definitely my favorite shonen series right now. Even though we also got the Chainsaw Man movie. No, not a new season, but Chainsaw Man was back this year as well, and that is cool. That movie was definitely a standout, and it was awesome. I am kind of hoping that Chainsaw Man comes back with another actual episodic season instead of just movies all the time, but we'll just have to see what MAPPA has planned. But on the subject of returning seasons, we also have My Dress Up Darling, which came back with a second season as well, and honestly, it felt like a conclusion. I don't know if we're going to get a season 3 of that one, but that is just a beautiful, gorgeously animated, exceptionally warm-hearted anime romance show that I really loved. It's just great show celebrating cosplay and fandom. Definitely one of the best slice of life shows of the year, bar none. And it wrapped up in a way where I'd be perfectly fine if we didn't get more of that one. But I guess we'll just have to see. I loved it. Loved My Dress Up Darling. We also got Call of the Night Season 2, which just been a whole lot of Season 2s. And that was great, because Call of the Night Season 1 was my anime of the year back in 2022. I loved Season 2. I liked that it got a little darker. I loved that we got more of Detective Anko. Great character. One of my favorite waifus of the year. You know, total edgelord, but understandably so. Loved her character. And that was cool to see. It was cool to see a show return with like a darker edge or kind of a different tone, even though it still felt like Call of the Night. You know, we still have those fun nighttime slice of life moments between Vampire Girl and her boo. And it was fun show. Good to see more of that. That one I really do want a season 3 though, because there's definitely more story to tell there, and I really want more of it. Then we had a new season of Panty and Stocking. It was great. It was cool to see that come back after a very long hiatus. I don't think anybody thought we were ever going to get a true season 2 to that show. Admittedly, while recording, I have not finished season 2 of Panty and Stocking because it was like 20 something episodes or something. But I've seen enough to know that it's a good return to form. It's a good second season. I like the new characters. It's got all the usual humor. I'd even go so far as to say I like it maybe a tiny bit better than the first season in some respects. If only because it's just a tiny bit more restrained when it comes to just how gross and vulgar the first season could get. Because I'm not usually a fan of vulgar, gross out humor, but Panty and Stocking somehow, some way, kind of gets away with it, with me. And so it was cool to see it come back and maybe broaden its style of humor just a tiny bit, and I enjoyed it for that. None of those are going to be my pick for anime of 2025, simply because they are continuations, you know? We're going to be looking at the new original titles this year when it comes to who takes the crown in my anime of 2025. But that starts with Gundam Quacks, or QX, however the hell you want to say that title. I hate that title. And unfortunately, while I did think that Gundam show was awesome when it started, great animation, beautiful animation, even the CGI in that show is really well shaded, and it's a beautiful looking show. We got Studio Khara and Sunrise working together, and it's really disappointing that even though we have these two great studios, this could have been an original show. This could have been an original story. And instead, it ended up just being Gundam fan service. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's all it is. If you loved it and you enjoyed it anyway, that's great. But that's all Gundam Quacks ended up being. I feel like the first half of that show had so much promise. It had such a cool plot with these kids using these stolen Gundams or whatever, these illegal Gundams, and fighting them in like these battles. and it was almost like a sport, the clan battle thing, and I was like, this could have just been its own show. You really didn't need to take it. The whole second half just turns into Gundam fan service, glorified Gundam fan service that ties back into the original classic show in some really weird ways involving like time and space. And it's just like, I didn't like it at all, man. The whole ending of this show is just so batshit and not in a good way. And it's just a shame to see like such talented studios wasting their time on just all this great animation and production and everything else on just like a really just kind of cheap fan servicey thing. It just didn't feel good to me. I don't know. I would have preferred an original mech show. Could still be set in the Gundam universe, sure, but like it didn't need to be so heavily tied to the original classic series in such a weird way. It's like if you're not a huge like classic Gundam fan who knows that show inside and out, and I admittedly don't, you're really not gonna get much out of the story from Gundam Clax, and that's a shame. So that ended up being a bit of a stinker, honestly. Still has two very cute lead waifus, and I loved the first half, but it just, not a fan. Uh, and then, unfortunately, to add to that, we had Kowloon Generic Romance, which was a very unique, very interesting and original uh, love story, I guess you could say, involving the walled-in city of Kowloon, which I had not known much about until I saw this show. It was kind of educational. I've never heard of this city, Kowloon, this walled-in city from past, industrial China uh, that got like demolished or whatever. And I was like, this is really cool. And I like the story. I like the characters. I like the weird sci-fi plot with the weird thing in the sky and lots of weird shit going on. And it was a really good like human story for a lot of that season. But then it does what all anime do when they're based on like a running manga that is not finished yet. It was not finished. So the anime did what anime usually does when that happens. They have an anime original ending. And I'm sorry, but no matter how good your anime original ending is going to be, it's always going to feel tacked on. It's always going to feel like, oh, this diverged, you know? This doesn't feel natural anymore. You were very closely adapting somebody else's story, and then at the last minute you're like, well, we got to do this now because we don't have any other conclusion to work with yet. It hasn't been written. It's like, ugh. And I'm not saying the anime original ending to this show was bad or that it's the worst I've seen, but it felt very just neat and tidy, and it felt rushed. The animation quality also kind of, you know, kind of downgrades by the last couple of episodes, and that's a shame because for most of this adaptation, I was on board. I was locked in. I was like, this is really good and really interesting and compelling and provocative. And I loved the main character. I loved her a lot. I loved so many things about this show, the themes and everything, and it all ends in such a neat, tidy, and kind of conventional way. And I was like, nah, this is... if anything, it just makes me want to go read the manga, because that is bound to have a more interesting ending. I don't know. It just did not land for me. And that's a real shame because it had the potential to be one of the best of the year. And those anime original endings, man, I never enjoy those. So then we move on to the ugliest looking anime of the year, Night of the Living Cat, which, man, that show has one joke, and it is a great joke. Let's take the zombie apocalypse, and instead of flesh-eating zombies, it's cats. It's cute, cuddly cats that just want to cuddle with you and turn you into cats. And it's just an absurd, silly, really fun premise and a love letter to cat lovers everywhere. But it looks like shit. Night of the Living Cat just looks horrible. The visual direction, the animation itself, the color palette is weirdly kind of like boring and bland looking. It's just a really unpleasant looking show most of the time. There's not a single like good Sakuga moment. And again, JC Staff strikes again. I mean, they are notorious for having some of the cheapest looking animation with a lot of things they do, unfortunately. And this is unfortunately one of those shows. Looks like shit. Sorry, Night of the Living Cat. It also doesn't end in the most climactic or interesting way. But again, that's probably partly because it looks so bad. Maybe it would have landed a lot harder if it looked better, but I don't know if I want a season two of this show, even though I would like to know what happens in the narrative. And the characters are solid. It's just like this is another case where like I think the original source material is probably much better. Not since like Golden Kamuy have I seen such a like piss poor adaptation. And I've seen some of the original art from the original graphic novel or whatever, and it looks really nice and it looks really good. And I'm just like, JC Staff is not the studio for this, you know? It at least had a good soundtrack and good music, and like the humor definitely still shines through. The strength of the joke and the source material is almost enough. Like it was just about enough to keep me watching all the way to the end, but it's just not. Yeah. I mean, anime is a visual medium, and no matter what your show is about, you still have to bring some level of aesthetic charm. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be the best looking show of the year, but it has to look better than this. So, those are like the biggest stinkers. I guess I could also mention that Tojima wants to be a Kamen Rider, which had a lot of promise. Another one that had like a great premise, really, really funny. Lost a little bit of its novelty as it went along. I kind of feel like it wore off a bit after its initial first 3 or 4, maybe 5 episodes. Like the first half of that show was like a really stellar, funny ass premise. And then it just kind of just repeats itself. It starts to repeat itself over and over. Once they got to like that tournament, that little tournament where they were beating the crap out of each other just to see who's the strongest Kamen Rider fan, it just kind of I was really starting to lose like interest in this show, which is a real shame because it is so funny. I don't think it ever completely stops being funny or mildly entertaining. It's just like, man, this show needed to keep up the momentum it started with because it started with so much momentum. And, you know, it's not completely over yet, and I'm sure we'll get more of it. It's just, yeah, as of this video, it's also a slight letdown, just in terms of pacing and like where its story's been going and the lack of momentum as it went along. But, you know, I still recommend it. I still think it's pretty funny. So that's on the lower end of this year. You know, let's get back to the higher end of things and talk about some of the other original, unique shows that came out this year that totally stuck the landing, like Time to Strike Turkey, which nobody watched. None of you watched this damn show. Why? It's great. This crazy concept of like this bowling team, these girls that love to go bowling, getting sucked into the past to the samurai era Japan and having to figure shit out, how to get home and everything else. I know that on the surface that sounds like just a goofy premise. It sounds like a gimmick, and maybe people unfortunately wrote it off for that. But like this show is criminally overlooked this year, and it's a real shame because even though I was already on board with the premise, I thought it was fun. I thought it was weird enough and wacky enough that I did stick with it. I'm glad I did because it's a great show. The characters are really well rounded. Its themes and its dramatic moments hit really good. It's got real emotion and weight. You end up really caring about these girls and the characters they meet in the past. And it has a really satisfying and also really funny and charming ending. It's really good. It's like really good. Time to Strike Turkey is really, really good. Like it's a real shame that got overlooked and more people didn't watch this show. I also want to say that it's especially worth praising this anime because it's not based on a manga. Unlike a lot of stuff this year, unlike a lot of the best anime I've seen this year, this one was totally anime original. You know, so you didn't have to look up the source material and see how faithful it was, or think about, oh, are we going to get another season? Is there more of the manga? No, it's a totally standalone anime original, which we don't always get that much anymore. And honestly, for such a bonkers premise that ended up telling a sincere, heartfelt, and fun, interesting little story about these girls who use bowling to solve a time travel conundrum. It's pretty freaking good. I mean, it's definitely one of the best anime I've seen this year, which is kind of crazy, but you know, there you go. About the only thing I could say about Time to Strike Turkey that is not on par with everything else I've seen this year is that visually, while it is a good looking show, it is slick, it is polished, it looks nice, it's definitely more on the conventional side visually. It looks more like a conventional anime compared to something like City or Sanda, or which we'll get to. It doesn't quite have like the same level of like abstract, weird, doing crazy new stuff with anime that we haven't quite seen before. It's pretty conventional as far as the visuals go, but like still looks nice. It's no Night of the Living Cat, that's for sure. So I still highly recommend that one. If you haven't seen it, shame on you. Go watch Time to Strike Turkey. Also, City the Animation. Good lord, City the Animation. KyoAni just continues to be one of the best anime studios in the world when it comes to really beautiful, sweet, sugary anime characters that just make you feel good, you know? Their shows are always just so fun to watch. And this is one of the best ones I think they've put out since Violet Evergarden. Honestly, especially when it comes to the animation. I mean, everybody's talked about City's animation, and it looks glorious. It looks so beautiful. It's got an art style that is incredibly unique, but it still kind of fits into that KyoAni classic, like, but very moe style. It still kind of has that vibe, but like visually, I've just never seen anything like this show before ever. It's so beautiful. It's so colorful. And I think the secret of why this show is a huge contender for me for Best Anime of the Year is simply because it's a radically funny comedy. It's radically over the top and funny and ridiculous and sometimes even nonsensical, deliberately so. And yet, it doesn't have an ounce of cynicism or mean-spiritedness. It is not an anime that wants you to feel even a moment of anything but joy. It is just such a joyous show. It is so like loving and happy all the time, no matter how like silly or even stupid it's trying to be with its humor. It never ever feels like I said, like just cynical or whatever. Like this is just the ultimate feel good anime of the year. In addition to just making you laugh your ass off for most of the time. And the humor may not be for everybody, but hell, it was for me. And in a year that has been so full of just shit news and shit people doing shit things that have way too much power and shouldn't have that power, and making common people like me just feel like absolute garbage on a daily basis, thank God for an anime like City, the animation that actually, you know, it's like a feel-good pill, on a screen. It's just, yeah, real life will never be as happy and ideal and constantly wonderful as this anime, make no mistake. But that's why it's great. It's a great work of escapism. You watch it and you forget about how awful life actually is. So for that, I give it nothing but praise. Sanda, the Santa Claus anime, which is for an anime centering around Santa Claus, it's a lot more meaningful and thematic and uh, even surprisingly sad and sobering by the end of its season. I don't know if we're going to get more of this show or not. I don't know enough about the manga, if there's more to adapt, or, we'll see. But honestly, what I love is that this is another anime this year that, while it could go on for another season, possibly, the end of the season that we get feels like an ending. It feels like a good conclusion because when we get there, it feels like it's wrapped up its thesis. You know what I mean? It's told its story, and it's surprisingly dark and kind of sad, and actually devastatingly sad for an anime about. But that's the thing. Sanda isn't really about Santa Claus. It's using that mythos to tell a story about youth and about aging and about all kinds of really complex themes that it handles remarkably well. And this is definitely another huge contender because of that. It's also another anime from Science Saru, the guys who do Don Don, and once again, they've knocked it out of the park with the animation. It looks incredible. It's got a color palette that is very unique and very striking. I love the character designs. They're very unique and different from anything I've seen in anime before ever. It's great. It's a great show. It really is. This is another huge hit for Science Saru. And again, I don't know if we're getting more of it, but if we are, that's two big multi-season shows that Science Saru is juggling right now. Sanda is almost too high concept to exist, but it is a glorious thing. And I really like the story it tells. In terms of themes, I think it resonates with me more than any other anime this year, possibly. Just because of its themes about aging and age in general and youth and how that affects people in society. And really good show. Just watch it. Also, the Summer Hikaru died, which I'll admit I caught very late in the year. I did not watch it over the summer, but it is another very strong contender. It's the best horror anime I've seen since Higurashi. I said that in my video. It's glorious. And once I wrapped it up, I felt like, man, we're definitely getting another season of this. There's definitely more to come. It does end on a little bit of a cliffhanger. And yeah, that first season is so remarkably well executed. We got to get more of that show. There's no way they're not going to greenlight a second season or haven't already, because it's really good. It's definitely the most intense anime of the year in terms of atmosphere. Atmosphere, vibes, subtlety, subtle drama. It's the biggest anime I've seen this year in that regard. My anime of the year for 2025 is City, the animation. Now you might be wondering, why that one? All these other anime that have much bigger themes and much more to say and were so much more adult and mature and they had all this stuff going on, and yes, I know. But here's the thing. City the animation is kind of just flawless in what it sets out to do. And what it sets out to do is very simple. It wants to make you laugh. It wants to make you happy. And that's all it wants to do. And again, not to keep hammering this home, but 2025 has been a dark year, man. There's dark shit happening. There are dark times upon us. And more, I am going to welcome something like this that is just absolute food for the soul, man. because it's so joyous, just because it's so happy. And again, it is a landmark achievement in animation right now. I mean, in a lot of ways, I think it's the best looking anime of the year. And yeah, it's just really, really funny and really enjoyable. Even when the jokes didn't 100% like have me on the floor or anything, I was still just having a good time watching this show and spending time with these characters in this city, this kooky city with all these characters. And yeah, it just felt good. It just felt good watching this show. I mean, you know, Sanda and The Summer Hikaru Died would definitely be right up there alongside it in terms of quality and must-watch anime. So if you need like a top three, there you go. City the Animation, Sanda, and The Summer Hikaru Died. You know, we don't need to make it a one thing affair. They're all great. Those are the three best. Everything else, including the returning shows that came back this year, you know, all the returning seasons, My Dress Up Darling and Call of Night and Don to Don, like those were all great too, you know. But ultimately, those are the three that like knocked it out of the park and also just did things I've never seen before in anime. You know, they were the ones that were like the standouts, the most unique, the most original, and also the most memorable visually and everything else. So yeah, those are my picks for the best anime of the year. And it's been another great year. Another great year for all of us weebs everywhere. What will 2026 bring? Who knows? You guys, of course, have to let me know in the comments, what is your favorite anime of 2025? What did you enjoy the most this year? What did you not enjoy? What were your best and your worst? And until next time, Have a happy new year, guys. You get to burning and live for the passion.